Roll for Crit is made possible thanks to the support of viewers like you and our patrons on our Patreon page.
You can become a patron for just $1 a month at patreon.com/rollforcrit. Roll for Crit is here now to bring you our Kickstarter preview for Twisted Fables, the newest title from Diemension Games. This is a primarily two-player card battling game with deck building elements that takes place in a world of fairy tales that have become twisted, hence Twisted Fables. You'll be playing as characters like Little Red Riding Hood or Alice in Wonderland, but they have different elements from other genres like some cyberpunk or some horror stuff mixed in, and something is causing all these characters from different dimensions to come together and fight it out.
As you can see that these fairy tale characters aren't as sweet and cuddly as we may remember them. This is a fighting game after all. You will start the game with each player choosing a character. They will come with their own character board, which you will insert their initial stats, as well as a starting deck, and then 3 separate decks, plus an extra 3 cards on those epic cards. We'll get to those later. You'll start the game with that basic deck, and like any deck building game, you'll be playing cards from there to do different actions, and then upgrade them as you go. Most of your deck will be made of basic cards that either give attack, movement, or defense. Defense is very simple. It raises your defense value. Once you play a certain number of defense cards, let's say you played enough to get 3, during your opponent's turn, 3 of their damage is going to get blocked. Now, if you had any defense left over at the start of your turn, you will lose it, so it's not a permanent defense bonus. Movement is also very simple. It's moving along the track. This is similar to a 2-player fighting scrolling game, so you can be moving back and forth in order to get within range or out of range of your opponent. Finally, there's attack. All basic attacks have an attack range of 1, meaning you'll have to be right next to your opponent to hit him in the face. For each card you play, you get deal damage equal to the value on that card. You'll start off with ones that have a value of 1, but as you can see in the upgrade pile, there are 2s and even 3s that you can purchase later on. There are also personal skill cards. This is a fighting game, and as any fighting game goes, you want characters to feel unique. So each character has these unique skill cards they start off with and ones they can buy. When you play these skill cards, you can't just play them. They actually have to be played with one of the basic cards to activate them, usually trying to make a stronger version of that. For example, this attack card needs to be played with a basic attack card, allowing you to do a lot more damage, and some special other effects depending on the character you're playing as. With these basic and also personalized skill cards, you will be fighting your opponent, trying to play as many cards as you can from your hand, and when you're done, like other deck building games, you will discard these cards and draw a new hand of 6.
As this is a deck building game, you're going to want to be building up your deck by purchasing new cards to add to it. There are 2 places that you can do this. There is a set of basic cards that you can always purchase from these face-up piles. They have different levels and different costs, and then you have your own personal skill piles. Each character has their own, and they are separated into 3 distinct piles in a specific order. So you're going to need to purchase the top card before you can purchase the next card underneath it, and so on until you finally reach the bottom. Now, what is the currency of this game? That is power. You keep track of your power via a track at the bottom of your board. You'll have a little marker to show you how much you have, and you generate power each time you use one of those basic moves. So if you move 2 spaces, that's 2 power. If you attack someone and inflict 3 damage, that's 3 power. So everything you do from those basic cards is also going to help you purchase new ones. There are some special cards in addition to the normal skill cards in your skill decks as well. Those are called twists. They have a special icon in the corner to let you know that they are twists, and you don't have to purchase them. They don't cost power. As soon as one is revealed in your pile, you add it to your personal area underneath your board, and it has an ongoing effect. It might give you a new ability, something you can do on your turn. It might increase your stats in a specific way. Every character has different ones, and there's 2 in each pile, and the ones at the bottom are really strong, and often they have the same effect. So if you manage to get multiple of them, they will stack on top of each other and give you a really strong effect. Speaking of strong effects, you also have another type of card, the epic cards. There are 3 of them for each character. And at the start of the game, you have a threshold point, an epic threshold that goes on your HP track. And if your HP ever hits or goes below that threshold, then you get to take one of those 3 epic cards and put it into your hand. So you're only going to get one of these per game. So depending on what's going on, you might choose a different one, but they have really, really strong effects. They're very scary. They're kind of your super move. And once you have finished and added it to your hand, it will then go into your discard pile and you'll be able to draw it again on future turns, just as if you had purchased it like any other card. Then at the end of your turn, of course, you will discard everything. Some cards might stay out if they have ongoing effects that will trigger on a future turn. Otherwise, you keep going back and forth, fighting each other until eventually someone's life hits 0, and that's the end of the game.
That is the basic rules for this game. There are some alternate modes. For example, the spaces can be flipped to show relics, which allow you to pretty much do an extra action depending on the space you're on. There's also a 2v2 mode, but that requires a little upgrade kit, so we're going to focus just on what's in the base thing for now. The deck building element really adds some weird twists on it because you have 3 separate piles and you can upgrade your character in a way. Usually, like in those other games, it's like, this is what my character does. If I'm playing against a teleporting guy, I might be in trouble because I can't close the gap. If you find yourself in that kind of situation like this, you're like, well, I'll buy a bunch of movement cards. Then I can reach them.
Yeah, you're able to make yourself a lot more versatile and react. Each of those 3 piles, those skill piles, are generally speaking kind of like separated into an attack pile, defense pile, and a movement pile. That could change depending on which characters you play or which characters are coming out in the future. But that in that way, and of course from the basic cards that are available, you can decide like, oh, they're really hitting me really hard, so this game I'm going to go in for the defense and try to make that work for me. So you can't always know that your opponent is playing Sleeping Beauty, so they're always going to play a specific way, maybe to some extent, but you have room to maneuver within that framework.
There is one other big thing. If you've played any deck building games, I think what's one of the core mechanics you need is a way to thin out your deck. In this, it's called focusing. Anyone can do it, but it's giving up your turn to destroy 1 card in your hand or discard pile. That does mean you can't just buy willy-nilly. You really need to be a bit more careful because if your deck becomes bloated, it's pretty painful to give up an entire turn to get rid of 1 card.
Yeah, that's another thing is you have to keep in mind that those skill cards, while they're definitely stronger, they require the basic cards to be played. So you do have to balance out between the two, which of the types you want, because if you go all in for one or the other, it's probably going to hurt you in the end. The base comes with 5 or 6 different characters, and again, each of them is very unique. Some of them, like Alice from Snow White. Sorry, Snow White actually has her own deck of poison cards that she gives to the other player to water their decks down. Alice. They're very similar characters. Alice in Wonderland has like her own special additional smaller cards that have different effects for her. So it's not just their skill cards that's different. Some of them have totally different setup maneuvers that will completely change things even before the game starts.
Right. Sleeping Beauty has like an awake and sleep side. Some of them have tokens. Mm-hmm. They are designed to play differently, but because, like I said, you have the 3 piles, and the 3 piles are sort of like, this is your more attack-focused skills. This is more defense-focused skills, so on and so forth. It really easy to adjust on the fly. And like you said, one time you may play like, I'm going to go glass cannon, Red Riding Hood. When another game you're like, oh, this time I'm going to try a bit more of this energy shield and see if I can kill them that way.
Yeah. So I would say if you like games like BattleCon, that style of 2-player head-to-head fighting game, or the 2v2 mode, which is pretty similar, but you can kind of like just jump between tracks, and of course you're attacking potentially 2 different people and working with a teammate, then this is something that you might want to look at. Or if you just think the theme is cool, and also if I think for some people the theme could look like kind of a turnoff because it's like, it's that dark, gritty, like, oh man, it's fairy tales, but now they're cool and dark and violent. And I don't think it really goes quite in all the way in that direction. Like, I didn't find it off-putting. I think if that's something that worries you, it's worth taking a look at. I think you can enjoy that flavor and that theme while still just mainly focusing on the gameplay if that's what you're interested in.
Let us know if you are taking a look at this Kickstarter in the comments down below. And of course, this is based on fairy tales, which means there are plenty of other characters that they can add. So who do you think should be added to the roster?
Yeah, maybe there will be stretch goals or expansions. We don't know. You'll have to go to the Kickstarter page linked in the description below to see for yourself. My name is Jonathan.
My name is Will.
And this has been a Roll for Crit Kickstarter Preview. We would love it if you liked and subscribed to this channel and supported us on Patreon as well.
For legal reasons, we've got to disclose we're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with more awesome content.